Ladies and gentlemen, family and friends, good morning to all of you present here today. For those who don't know me, my name is Ernest Messina. In tye soos hierdie word ons opnuut daaraan herinner, daar is inderdaad 'n tyd vir alles. 'n Tyd om te kom en 'n tyd om te gaan, te lewe en te sterwe. Die lewe van Ainsley Moos het verbye met 'n onbeskryflik skielike skok tot 'n einde gekom. Sy afsterwe maak ons opnuut bewus van die harde werklikheid. No one lives forever. We are mere mortal beings and gone in an instant. Context to this hard reality is given by astronomer Carl Sagan. In his blue dot speech, Sagan reminds us that this little blue dot we call planet Earth is but like a speck of dust in the greater known universe. He states, among other, and I paraphrase, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives on this dot. Every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and every peasant, every young couple in love, every father and mother, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, saint and sinner in the history of our species, all lived here. And can we add, they have all gone, and eventually we will too. Yet, so many of us live with this, call it, unrealistic expectation that the life of loved ones like Ainsley should last for a very long time. And when a life is cut short, we are devastated, heartbroken, and feel a deep sense of loss. In moments like these, we realize anew that after all, we are all simply human, with emotions, dreams, care, and the ability to love. Ainsley se moeder wat hier voorsit, mevrou Alida Moos, met haar kinders en uitgebreide familie, ervaar hiermee 'n geweldige groot slag. Ons verwelkom hulle van Oudtshoorn en elders innig en spesiaal. The dreams his wife Taryn had for her with Ainsley and Lex, their son, are now shattered. A massive reset is required for her and Lex and the extended Con family, and her parents are here. We are, though, not without hope. In ons broosheid en feilbare mensheid is juis opgesluit die saad van voortgaan en voortbestaan. Daar is en sal altyd wees winkende en wagtende horisonne om ontsluit te word for all of us. In this spirit, we welcome all of you to this memorial. Laat ons dus nie treur en treurig wees soos mense wat geen hoop het nie. Kom ons reik mekaar die hand en verbind ons daartoe om Ainsley se nagedagtenis te laat voortleef, so that through us, his extraordinary talent, his treasure of character, and the time he devoted to so many people and institutions will continue to live and be amplified. We may say his life was too brief, a moment in time. In the end, though, as the saying goes, it is not how long we live, but how well. We now call on the speakers as indicated on the program. There's just one change for those of you who have the program. Meneer Patrick Wagner, 'n familielid, sal namens die familie die woord spreek.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, friends, family. My name is Johan van Zyl. I had a long and very close relationship with Ainsley, mainly professional relationship. We worked together at Sanlam and also at African Rainbow Capital on very close relationship and on a daily basis. I knew of Ainsley first time when I studied agriculture and was always involved as a sideline in farming, when he became the editor of, and was the editor, and a very good one at that, of Landbou Weekblad. Nou vir die mense wat weet, dit is soort van die handboek van boerdery hier in ons land. 'n Weekblad wat elke dag uitkom, vir mense sê wat dit is. And Ainsley took this on, and he did a great job of that, to such an extent that he became the editor of Volksblad as well, later on. And in that process, did an MBA, studied, got promoted within the then Media 24, a Naspers company, to sort of head of business publications. I then met him by chance at a function here in Cape Town. At the time say, but why only go halfway? Why don't you really join business? Join me at Sanlam, become head of communications with us. And that was in 2012. And since then, Ainsley has been a big part of certainly my life and the business life. Ons het daagliks saamgewerk om hoof van kommunikasies van 'n groot besigheid te wees in 'n tyd van transformasie en groei en dinge. Beteken 'n mens moet in die werklikheid leef. Iets wat Ainsley gedoen het. En iets wat hy met uitnemendheid gedoen het. Jy kan klaar agterkom, hy was 'n leier. Waar hy begin het hy onmiddellik hoof geword, soos van Landbou Weekblad, hoof van Volksblad, hoof van kommunikasie van 'n groot instelling, daardie tyd 15-20.000 mense, met groot tentakels in die besigheidswêreld. And we trusted him, he did a great job in that. Towards the end of 2014, he came to me and said, we have to move forward, I want to grow. I said, what do you want to do, Ainsley? He said, maybe we can work closer together. And we found a way when he became the head of my office as the CEO at Sanlam, managing the office on a day-to-day basis, which actually meant beginning of every day we got together, planned the day, although it didn't really turn out to happen in that manner. So, and in the evening we would sort of have a retrospection on what happened during the day. And moving on from there, you know, when I retired at the age of 60 from Sanlam, we started African Rainbow Capital. And a year or so after that, Ainsley came, knocked on the door and said, Johan, I need to talk to you. I have to move on in life. And what can I do with you guys in Africa Rainbow Capital? I said, of course you can join us. You can head up communications, but let's broaden it. We have many stakeholders. We have a broader role to play. We want to be a part of making this country a fairer place and business a fairer place, access to everyone. He says, that is what I want. And he was with us till his so untimely death recently. So if you work in a small office on a daily basis, you see each other, very few things that you can hide from each other. You see people closely the way they are. And Ainsley was a great guy. He was definitely a leader. You didn't have to tell him things. He came to you with ideas. He took the baton and ran with it. Very few of the traits that we would like to have in business today had such a big influence on Ainsley, to the extent that he was humble, not something that you find in business. He stepped up to the plate. His word was his honor. He worked hard. Things that you want to be associated with. He was committed. Above all, he had integrity, values, principles, and you could see he got them from home that he brought with him. He could be trusted to deliver and execute. If he said, I'll send you the document by this afternoon, you get it by the afternoon. That's how I will remember him. A team player, well-loved, respected, and so forth. A man who believed in South Africa. The changes that we've gone through, he was part of that. He never looked back, never blamed the past. He only embraced the future and worked towards realizing that. Something that really struck me. He was always willing to go the extra mile. When I give up on people and say, no, this oak, we'll never get him to agree with us. Ainsley always went back, had another lunch with him, tried to get him on board. Many times he failed, but often, against all odds, he succeeded. He was a guy for the facts. His whole career was being brought up as a media man. So, Johan, let's get the facts out there. When there's a bad story, say, let's just give the facts. People aren't as stupid as we think. They will come to the right conclusion, but let's give them the facts. And let's wait, not overreact, that sort of a thing. But overall, let's tell the truth, let's be honest, and if we've made a mistake, let's apologize. And if we didn't, let's not apologize. Very important. So, ons het baie geleer van Ainsley, en as 'n span gaan ons hom mis. Elke dag. One thing that I have to say about Ainsley is he loved his family and always spoke fondly of them. Taryn, you and Lex had a special place in his life. En dan ook sy moeder, sy ma, Alida, sy broer Denrik, alhoewel ek hom nie goed ken nie, weet ek presies wat jy daarvan gepraat met trots. Sy twee susters, Alexa en Alison. Sy twee susters, baie mense. Ons gaan vir ons hy los vir ons iets. Ons kan trots wees. Waarop julle wil trots wees. Ons sal hom so onthou.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Wim de Villiers. I'm the Rector and Vice-Chancellor of Stellenbosch University. It is a true honor to pay tribute to Ainsley Moos, Stellenbosch University's Chair of Council. Over the last few days, however, I've grappled with a question on how to do justice to the stature of someone that left an indelible mark on all of us who had the immense good fortune to work closely with him and who could experience his personal gravitas firsthand. Words are woefully inadequate to capture the essence of the person, Ainsley Moos. But I'll attempt in any case. In life, his impact and influence somehow reminded me of the effects of a perfumery, a fragrance store, Sephora, that store that my wife and daughters so like to frequent. And we're all familiar with the experience when you walk into a perfumery. You're met with all-embracing and enveloping fragrances that tend to linger on long after you've left the premises. And such was the effect of Ainsley. In his quiet, reasoned, and striking logical manner, he would always have that takeaway and lingering effect in the manner that he guided us to solutions, or at least pointed to new and different perspectives on matters that served in front of the University Council. He was not one for confrontation. He was a vredemaker. But yet, he never shied away from robust and firm engagement, but also encouraging the expression of the free expression of ideas. And to echo the words of our Deputy Chair of Council, Dr. Nicky Newton-King, Ainsley's humility and calm leadership stood the Council in good stead as it dealt with a series of critical challenges in the past year. The University has been so lucky, so fortunate to have counted Ainsley amongst its leaders at this crucial time in its history. Since his untimely passing, we have placed a book of remembrance and condolences at the entrance of our administration building, where our council chambers are located. And yesterday, I paged through some of the handwritten messages by members of the university community. And this showed the clear effect that Ainsley had on our students and staff, and are indicative of the qualities of this man that still had so much to offer our institution. Some of the phrases used in the tributes and messages of condolences to his bereaved family. You embodied excellence. Thank you for all your encouragement and support. You left too soon. Ons het 'n uitnemende leier verloor. Jou sagte en ferme manier van wees sal ek altyd koester. Wat 'n ongelooflike verlies vir ons universiteit. Dankie vir die mens wat jy was. Thank you for making our journey softer and richer. A true leader has fallen. So not only has the university lost an extremely talented council chairperson, but a most valued and loyal friend of our community, a most valuable friend to me personally. Ainsley served on the Stellenbosch University Council since 2014 and was, among other roles, chair of the Council's Remuneration Committee, a member of the Executive Committee, and the Human Resources Committee. And before he assumed the role of Council Chair in 2021, Ainsley also served as Deputy Chairperson from 2018. This morning, we remember a great soul whose memory will not be forgotten and whose life we celebrate and honor. In vrede. Thank you.
Goeiemôre. My naam is Leroy Skuman, ek is 'n vriend van Ainsley. It's an honor for me today to pay tribute to Ainsley, one of the most loyal and caring friends that anyone could wish to have. My innige meegevoel vir sy familie, vir sy gesin, vir sy kollegas, sy baie vriende wat vandag hierso is en ons op die web saam met ons is. Sy kollegas, studente en werknemers van die universiteit wat hy gedien het met soms verbuisterende werketiek bo op sy gewone werklading. I met Ainsley while we were studying journalism at this university in 2001. It was sort of full catastrophe living back then. We were neighbors. I was drawn to this charismatic man from Oudtshoorn. He had large appetites for work and for fun. It was journalism and jazz and everything in between. We used to bond at a pub called Springbok in Bird Street. But the last time I saw him, we had coffee in a place called Honest in Wales Street. I'm not saying that to virtue signal or to say that we had become saints. I'm just grateful that we were able to grow in that direction. So Ainsley was a natural news manager. He was an avid news consumer and now, in the saddest way, a newsmaker. What Ainsley taught me is the value of time. You cannot plant saplings when you need shade. That is not a line that he used, but it was in a book that he almost forced me to read a couple of years ago. It's a book by Clayton Christensen, and it's called How Will You Measure Your Life? It's also the first thing I went to find on my bookshelf the night that I heard that he died. Ainsley understood intuitively the value of time, and he thought in terms of relationships and the longer term. I think that's what made him very good in his job, and what's interesting to me is that that was always with him since I met him more than 20 years ago. And so while Ainsley understood protocol and definitely corporate dynamics and politics as well as anyone I've ever come across, he didn't put on any airs. He was Moos on the day that I met him and Moos on the day that I last saw him. Although Ainsley liked reading, he was not an open book. I don't know what it's like for you at the moment, but I have sort of access to two kinds of emotions, gratitude and regret. The gratitude is for experiences that we were able to share, and regret for things that are now impossible. But I do think that we need both in order to heal. Perhaps it's a bit odd to resort to poetry for someone who was such a news hound, but I'm reminded of Ezra Pound's definition of poetry. He said that poetry is news that stays news. So I'm going to compromise and not read a poem. I'm going to read a line from Father Richard Rawl, who writes from the contemplative Christian tradition. And I'm going to read it 2 times because it took me a while to receive it myself. Love is the source and the goal. Faith is the slow process of getting there. Hope is the willingness to move forward without resolution and closure. And these are indeed the 3 things that last. Love is the source and the goal. Faith is the slow process of getting there. Hope is the willingness to move forward without resolution and closure. And these are indeed the 3 things that last. Thank you.
Goeiemorgen, dames en heren. I greet you all. Thank you very much for being here. And thank you for the opportunity that I can say something on behalf of the family, as his brother is not in a position to say something this morning. Baie dankie Ali vir die geleentheid dat julle vir Denny met my vervang het. As u sou vra, wie is daai man wat nou daar voor staan, dan sê ek maar vir die, ek weet die hele paar wat my ken, maar ek is Pat Wagenaar, daar van Oudtshoorn, gebore en getoe daarsom. Ek is met Ainsley se pa, sy suster, getroud, en as sulks op daai manier is ek 'n lid van die familie. As ek dan praat van Ainsley se oorlede pa, dan noem ek ook dat sy pa hulle reeds op 11 September 1992 ontval het. Dis 30 jaar gelede. Ainsley was dus die afgelope 30 jaar paaloos, vaderloos, net met 'n enkel ouer in die vorm van, soos ons sê, Ali, met die regte naam Alida. Al twee Oudtshoorn mense, Wyle Bani, wat sy pa was, en Ali, en as sulks is Ainsley ook gebore en getoe op Oudtshoorn. Ek wil so 'n bietjie teruggaan, going back into the past, about his father. Ek was toevallig ook daarbey betrokke, by sy begrafnisreëlings. Een van die grootste begrafnisse ook wat in Oudtshoorn plaasgevind het destyds, in 1992. Sy pa, met die naam Isaac, met die bynaam Bani, was ten tye van sy dood die prinsipaal of die hoof van die katholieke skool daar op Oudtshoorn, Sacred Heart Primêr. Sy pa en sy ma is intellektueel beide goed toegerus. 'n Mens kan nou maar sê in sy pa se afwesigheid dat hy baie van sy eienskappe van sy pa gehad. Boekwurm, leergierig, ook kunstig, mooiste handskrif en 'n uitstekende onderwyser. Dieselfde, baie beslis, kan van sy ma gesê word. Sy ma se broer, Wyle Charlie Du Plessis, was ook aan die ander kant, nie aan die einde van sy lewe nie, maar ek sal nou nie presies kan sê wanneer nie, die hoof van 'n ander primêre skool daar op Oudtshoorn, naamlik Protea Primêr. So, jy kan sien sy agtergrond en waar sy intellek en sy kennis en sy belangstelling in die akademie vandaan gekom het. Ainsley was 'n boekwurm, was besig met sy boeke op laerskool en op hoërskool. Laerskool natuurlik, ook daar waar sy pa later hoof was, skool gegaan by Sacred Heart Primêr, die primêre skool, en daarna het hy hom by die verdere studies, by die hoërskool, Britsen Senior Sekondêr op Oudtshoorn, het hy sy matriek klaar gemaak voordat hy gekom het vir tersiêre opleiding hier na die Universiteit van Stellenbosch toe. Ainsley het van vroeg af duidelike tekens getoon dat die wêreld, soos ek het sou uitdruk, vir hom oop lê. En hy sou dan deeglik gebruik maak om hom so goed as moontlik binne 'n kort tydperk van die geleenthede wat die lewe bied en wat die wêreld bied, gebruik te maak. And he did it very well. In a very short term. As ek sou vat dat hy in my berekeninge sal ek maar sê, as hy op 17, 18 verstand gekry het, en hy het op 45 hierdie kwalifikasies behaal, then he was excellent. He was an exception, I would say. En dit is hier gesê, die koerante sê dit, ek het dit vanoggend op so flissies vir professor Koopman gesê, baie dankie vir gister se berig in die burger. Onmiddellik 3 dae na sy dood het ek gelees van al die mense wat vanoggend hier as sprekers opgetree het, en dit was alles wat daar staan, 'n refleksie, positiewe refleksie van die lewe van Ainsley. Ainsley sou het bereik. En as ons dan nou van 17 of van 18 praat, die op na 45 toe, is dit 27 jaar. Binne 27 jaar, binne die bestek van 27 jaar, dis die 37, 27, het Ainsley bereik wat hy bereik het. In die akademiese wêreld, in die sakewêreld, in die media wêreld, in die versekeringswêreld, het Ainsley bereik teen 'n, ek wil sê, teen 'n verbuisterende spoed, binne 27 jaar. Dis uitstaande. En dit was eintlik van Ainsley verwag, want dit is die tekens wat hy uitgegee het en uitgebeeld het, terwyl hy 'n kind was. Laerskool, hoërskool, universiteit. En daarna het hy verder gegaan met sy studies, soos wat dit baie mooi uiteengesit is hierso. Ainsley het 2 susters, in die persone van Alison en Alexa. En Ainsley het 'n broer in die vorm van Denrick, wat ook hier is, en Ainsley is die oom van 3 kleinkinders wat hy agterlaat. Ek wil, toe ek die 31ste Januarie, het ek myself met my dogter in die behandelingskamer van die Merrie-kliniek op Oudtshoorn gestaan, terwyl daar 'n dokter met haar besig is. En my foon lui, en Alison sê vir my, terwyl ek nou onbewus is dat die foon op speaker is, Uncle Pat, Ainsley het afgesterf. En my dogter wat siek is, hoor dit. En toe sit ek nou vir 'n oomblik gou daar in 'n disposisie. Ek kon eers 2-3 ure na die hospitaal, kon ek by Ali uitkom, om by haar die feite te gaan kry en die inligting, verdere inligting, en help my net en so. Dit was 'n skok. Op 45. En dit het my in die dae wat verby is gebring by die punt dat Ainsley het vroeg in sy lewe besef hoe kort die lewe kan wees. En die lewe kan ons nou langer ook wees. Maar Ainsley sou op 15 Januarie gebore gewees het, en 45 jaar daarna sou hy sterf. Ainsley het die goeie eienskap gehad van 'n goeie kind, van 'n goeie seun, wat sy ma gereeld gekontig het, al was hy ook baie haastig. Ali vertel my dat, Pat, hy bel my, en sê net gou, mama, hoe gaan dit? Mama, ek praat weer tot ziens, as jy weer. Oor en uit, klaar. Hy wou net gou gebel het om te hoor, hoe gaan dit met sy ma. Ainsley het gereeld, wanneer hy dan nou 'n kans gehad het, kom besoek aflê, daar in Oudtshoorn by sy ma, en hy het vertoef by haar, so ver as wat hy kon, en so ver as wat sy tyd hom toegelaat het. Ons wil graag, ek persoonlik is baie beïndruk met die inhoud van hierdie program, want vir my persoonlik is dit 'n goeie aandenking. It's a very welcome souvenir that we can use in future and refer to and read it again. En wat jy kan gebruik by ander kinders om te sê, man, by die naam, kyk hier wat het Ainsley Moos behaal, jy kan dit ook doen. En ek dink dit is waarvoor ons wil baie dankie sê. Waarvoor die familie, waarvoor die gesin, Ainsley en haar kinders, haar oorblywende kinders wil baie dankie sê, want hier is tyd aan bestee. Dis nie sommer net 'n stuk papier nie, want Ainsley in my oë verdien so 'n gehalte program en aandenking. Baie dankie daarvoor vir almal wat daarbey betrokke was by die opstel van hierdie program. Ek wil u verseker, ek gaan dit hou, net soos wat ek die koerante ophoop daar by die huis, die burger in hierdie geval. Dit hou ek, soos wat ek baie ander koerante hou, want Ainsley is op besonderse wyse uitgelig in die koerantberigte, en jy voel dit aan die skrywer is in die ding. En ek wil ook dan van die geleentheid gebruik maak om van die familie se kant af, van Ainsley en haar kinders se kant af, vir almal wat daarbey betrokke was, is nie net ook die universiteit nie, almal wat betrokke was by die opstel van hierdie program, baie dankie sê, want dis regtig 'n waardevolle dokument. Ons wil ook dankie sê vir al die reëlings wat ingegaan het. Baie dankie sê vir die reëlings wat ingegaan het om hierdie plegtigheid van vandag hier te reël in die Kruiskerk op Stellenbosch. Alles word raak gesien, dit word waardeer, en ons sal dit glad nie maklik vergeet nie. Ek het net oor gesit te tel, Taryn, you married for 5 months. Ek het opdrag van die familie, van Ainsley, om te sê baie dankie. Thank you very much for, I would say, marrying, and also for the 5 months. But, life is short. All of us do not know what is going to happen, say, within the next half an hour. You don't know. And we'll have to be satisfied. What can I do? I don't know what's going to happen, say, 11:45 or 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock this afternoon. We don't know. So, thank you, Taryn, once again, for your marriage and your contact with Ainsley. Baie dankie.
I've asked my brother and my sister to join me in case I can't finish, but I wanted to try. Ainsley and I didn't get forever, but we did get everything. We had a great love story. It's a very long one. Not many people know the details, but it was a great one. We had a beautiful child, and we had a wonderful life. We just didn't get enough of it. We made a very difficult decision at the end of last year to get married privately because We had already organized and cancelled 2 weddings, and we still wanted the wedding, the party, the celebration, which is booked for the 11th of November this year. But we needed to move on with our life. We were in the process of adopting a second child, and we needed things to move forward after so much had been held back. As you know, the world went. And it was a very difficult decision. And the decision to do it alone, with just the witnesses, was hard. And in hindsight, the right decision, because the more people we considered trying to accommodate, the more logistics would have to be included and the further away that date would get. And we needed that, and for our son. So I'm going to read you just a short piece from my wedding vows, and then tell you a little bit about what I got that everyone here didn't, which was things that happened outside of the boardroom and outside of the business community, because I had him as a husband and a father, and before that, a life partner in lockdown with only each other for company. To find someone you love who loves you back is very rare. And I didn't need him to tell me to know I was loved, but he did tell me every single day. And it's even rarer to find someone who you love, who loves you back, and who shares your values and your vision for life. And even rarer still, to find someone who fulfills all of those things, whom you can still learn from, and who still inspires you to grow, not just through their words or their deeds, but through the way they themselves approach life, how they treat other people, through their generosity, consideration, and stability of character. And that's who he was. So, I wanted to share some of the stories that we shared, and it's through these stories, not through your experiences, that I learned life lessons, and I've left them here for you because Ainsley was an incredibly private person. He would have found all of this quite difficult, and you can ask the team who was organizing with me that I really struggled to allow his photograph on the program, because I knew that he would find the idea of his photograph in everybody's homes difficult. But people need things, and that's part of what memorialization is. So I felt that I would leave you something that I learned from him, that when you put the photograph away in the drawer, you can still remember what, for me, is Ainsley's legacy through the lessons that he taught me. And these were things that just came into my head in these last 2 weeks. These aren't things we specifically discussed. So when we brought Lex home from the hospital, after he'd been, because he was a premature baby, in the ICU, Ainsley wanted to ensure that he was safe and watched, and decided, without consultation, that we would take shifts, and basically the baby would be watched 24/7. And he would still go to work and do his job. And of course I knew this was not going to happen, because first of all, anyone who's had a baby knows you sleep when the baby sleeps, and it's impossible to stay awake. And I tried, and he was in a crib on my side of the bed. That's been the crib for every member of my family for 82 years. That actually had a little rainbow reflected from the window when we brought him home, somehow. And I fell asleep, because I obviously couldn't stay awake watching him. I just fell asleep. And at about 3 a.m. that night, I woke up. and I saw that Ainsley had gone to the dining room to get a chair, a very hard chair, and if you know him, he's a very big man, and he was sitting on a chair just watching his baby, and he watched him the whole night. And then he went to work the next morning to make sure that he was breathing and that he was safe and that he didn't go unwatched. Eventually, he got comfortable and he trusted the fact that somehow, I don't know, you get a sixth sense when your baby cries, even if you're asleep, you wake up. But that's what I remember. And during lockdown, we were stuck in a 2-bedroom flat in Joburg. And before we were allowed help, after which we were stuck in a 2-bedroom flat in Joburg with a baby and our wonderful nanny, Caesar, who is here with her daughter. But when we were alone and we both had to work jobs in lockdown, and at that point he was doing almost 2 jobs, and we didn't have anyone to care for our son, Lex had to be cared for by Peppa Pig, and Ainsley was working in the lounge, in the dining room, and I was working in the bedroom. And I mean, it was crazy times. And Lex was just learning to stand, and he had a little rail that he would stand in front of the TV, and he'd wobble like that. And of course, he's a baby, so he had nappy, and he had baby grows, and there was carpets on the floor, and he was going to be fine. And I went to go and get coffee. And I saw that Ainsley, who was probably in a meeting with, I don't know, TK or Johan, at some point had gone and gotten all of the cushions off the couch and laid them behind him so that if he fell, he would land on a little cushion, even though he was only this far from the ground. And despite failing at being able to identify a mint plant from a weed in our own garden, he had a lifelong love of farming, and I've had to learn too through watching every single episode of Megabood and learning things I thought I would never need to know. And I asked him then the obvious question: how did he, as the youngest, and let's be blunt, not white, editor of a farming publication, manage to walk into that place and have to tell old, established white journalists and engage with white farmers at a time when not only was the race issue going to be a problem, he was young. He was young. What did he know? And I asked him, how did he manage that? And he told me that he learned his greatest lessons there. He said he would sit in the lunchroom, not say anything, and he would just listen to how these men that he worked with discussed their investments, their retirement planning, their interests, and how they operated. And he just listened. And that's where he learned how to start planning for his own future. And that's when he started to understand business and the love of business. And that wasn't the answer I was expecting at all. As a journalist, sometime in his career, he was invited to visit Orania. And Ainsley was a man of constant curiosity and took this invitation to see behind the fence of one of the most controversial places in South Africa. And again, I asked how that must have been quite an experience, and we all know the perceptions. And he came out with stories of great interest, quite simply in how well that society was organized, how was it structured, how did it operate, beyond the politics and the culture, which Ainsley always understood and respected, everyone's culture. But he looked beyond the narrative and looked to see what worked, how it worked, why it worked, and where it would be able to be applied somewhere else, because he was looking to constantly learn and better himself. And his observation was how well run and efficient this isolated pocket was. Not that this isolated pocket should have been there to begin with, but that was not what he went to go and see.
because not many people get invited in. And he always saw the upside. And he always wanted to learn instead of criticize, because the criticisms are obvious and they're out there, but the learnings are what gets hidden. And he saw the parts that did work, and he wanted to know why and how they worked. And then he looked for opportunity, and Ainsley saw opportunity in everything. It was sometimes actually quite exhausting, because every idea became a business plan before we had gotten out of breakfast. And he worked out, based on his meeting, that should this little controversial place Orania grow as it had intended to, there were only two directions in which it could possibly grow. And he identified some little town, whose name I have to still remember, that has a church and like one street and a shop that doesn't always open. And he went and bought a plot of land, because one day, if Orania grows, it's going to grow in that direction. I asked him to show me, and in fact, I don't think he'd even been to the town when he bought it, because the internet's a wonderful thing. And we were driving back from one of our trips, and we went looking for it, and we think maybe we found it. We have yet to benefit from that, but the point is he saw an opportunity and he took a risk. And Ainsley never took uncalculated risks, but he took the risks. So he saw the opportunities and he took them. He was our anchor, he was our stabilizer, and he was a gentleman. But a gentleman in a way that never, ever sought to differentiate him as a man from any woman that he engaged with. He walked ahead of me down the stairs so that I could lean on him, because I have very unstable joints. And he walked up the stairs behind Lex so that if he falls, he could catch him, which has been our ritual every day. And he brought me coffee in bed every day. And his body was the anchor that calmed his child, who spent his first 2 years literally glued to his father's arms, long before he recognized anyone. When he could crawl, if he heard that key in the lock, that child ran to the door. And when I had to force Ainsley to rest, which he didn't do often, my child sat as a baby outside the bedroom door crying because Daddy was inside, and he would wait for him outside the bathroom door crying because he wasn't with him. He was a quiet, considered, and even shy man, and he loved the work he did, and he took great joy out of the boardroom strategies and the meetings and the way that he brought everyone to the table and the ideas. But I don't know if many people noticed, he found the attention overwhelming, and he was actually incredibly nervous in all of those addresses and those speeches. He really struggled to have that sort of attention. And I said to him often, because I was in those rooms with him, that the men that he admired so much because of what they had done genuinely admired him, genuinely wanted to engage him, and he would have to put that down to his position because he was uncomfortable with the idea of positive attention, because that didn't fit with who he was, which was a humble person just doing really well at a job that he thought could change things. And we were perfect together because I always had all the words, but he had the right words. And he always carried a handkerchief, like my father, and I always used it. And he held my hand in the car, and when Lex inserted himself between us every night in bed, had to get in the middle, we held our feet together. And so these are the things that I want to leave with you that I learned from Ainsley, which is the legacy that he has left for me and for Lex that you can carry forward. And that is, you watch and you learn first for as long as it takes, and then you act, and you act decisively. There is always a second chance, and even a third, and even a fourth, so don't give up, but be ready for it. People are always going to fall, but you need to do what you can to cushion that fall. See opportunity everywhere and seize it. Walls keep you safe, boundaries keep perspective, bridges connect. You need to build them all, but in the right places and for the right reasons. If you have influence, use it only for good. And this one in particular, and it will resonate because I've been hearing people who've met him once talking to me about those experiences. And he believed this and he lived this. Every single person has something to teach you, and you can never be finished learning. If you're too comfortable in the spotlight, then you probably shouldn't be in it. Culture is important to respect and to understand because it gives you the understanding of the lens of the way that people view the world. But values have to supersede culture, because if culture supersedes values, we will never find common ground. To be a good leader sometimes means to follow. Always carry a handkerchief because someone you love might need it. And don't be scared to love, and to be loved, because it's always worth it. And I will forever miss the love of my life. He's made a mark on me and our family that will never disappear. And tomorrow, when all of this attention has died down, I'm going to have to find a way to continue to build the wonderful life that we had started together, and to teach our son every day what a great man his father was. And I'm going to need your help to do it. Thank you.
Ek en Ainsley het uitsluitlik Afrikaans gepraat, maar vir die van ons vanoggend wat miskien nie Afrikaans magtig is nie, gaan ek in Engels praat. I knew Ainsley for only a very short time. In some ways, this accentuates the pain I feel at his loss, for we were in the process, as Taryn knew, of forming a bond that was intense, both at personal and professional level. We met after he became chairman of council, which was only 14 months ago. Ainsley was an impressive physical presence, imposingly large in stature, taller than I am, but much more importantly, he was large in spirit, large in heart, large in his affections, large in his loyalties, his commitments, and his generous assessment of other people. The Universiteitsraad, the University Council, is a tough place. There are strong-minded members of it representing different, often conflicting views and interests. There are profound and sometimes sacredly held conflicts at stake. The imperative to greater inclusiveness of this university, to which Ainsley was deeply committed, while the battle to retain what is precious to many people who love this university is also fierce and sometimes bitter. How did Ainsley deal with this? He dealt with it by seeking through his personal stature and largeness of spirit to create respectful relationships of integrity, not only with every faction on the council, but with each individual council member. To this end, he went to visit every single member after he became chair. And in most cases, he had a meal with them individually. He also threw himself into the history of council. Although he had been on council, as you heard, since 2014, he went to meet every single preceding chair and spent considerable time with them. He set up meetings with the distinguished people who'd held the position before him. And all of this he did with both intensity but also with calm. In this way, he got to know the extent of his job and the strengths and the weaknesses of those who'd preceded him. And of course, that's where I benefited as well, since it was through Ainsley's conscientious reaching out to everyone that I became privileged to know him. We started meeting regularly for lunch. His business duties, as Taryn has said, were extensive. And as Johan van Sailers said, they often brought him to Johannesburg, and then we would meet. An intense hour or two would ensue as we talked about Stellenbosch, about our respective jobs and duties to the university, and about how we should best use our positions and personal connections to try to shape the university's future. But we talked about much more. We also talked about our personal lives. He spoke with loving power about his family, and he spoke with loving power about his marriage to Taryn and the strong-spirited, loving boy that their union had produced. It was clear to me that Ainsley was an unusually devoted, caring, and practically committed spouse and parent. We also met at public functions, and I came to know that in Ainsley I had found someone with whom I shared deep values and human interests. More importantly, I knew that I'd found someone of extraordinary strength and vision. At one of our lunches, Ainsley spoke with passion about a great difficulty in the university sector in South Africa. Some tertiary institutions, like Stellenbosch, had accumulated assets and skills during apartheid that had been denied to other universities. His question was, what can we as a university do to bridge this gulf? He was concerned that Stellenbosch had a wealth of experience in governance, in financial management, in academic power, in international stature, which it could properly and perhaps should offer to share with others in the university sector. In this, Ainsley remained conscious of the dangers of being thought condescending or patronizing. Growing up, as we've heard, in Oudtshoorn, he was all too acutely aware of how others could inappropriately patronize. The thought that with the less you have, you therefore are less determined, insightful, or talented. These conversations culminated on the Thursday at the end of January. That morning, we held a most unusual meeting of the Chancellor's Forum. The Forum invited Ainsley to share his thoughts about intersectoral, interinstitutional resource sharing. He prepared carefully, as we've heard he did for everything for this meeting, since his proposal was contentious. He succeeded beautifully. His presentation was beautiful, persuasive, and highly successful. At the end of his talk, the Chancellors tasked him and me to work together in adapting his slides and his presentation so that the forum as a whole could consider and respond to his vision in practical ways. We were about to start our work on this vision and practically important project, which had the potential to bridge gaps and enhance equity and unleash enormous synchronous energies amongst all universities. And then he died. I will never forget the moment on Tuesday evening, the 31st of January, when Wim de Villiers, the rector, called me. The only word I can use is oorbluf. I think we all felt oorbluf. And I think there's still an element of all of us that doesn't believe it. He is so rich and real and beautiful, this wonderful, beautiful human being who is no more a physical, living, quick presence. Taryn, your and Ainsley's son Lex Alexander, all who loved Ainsley, Mevrou Alida, his brother Denrick, his sisters Alexa and Alison, you must still be beyond oorbluf, because only those of us who knew him can feel that, but you feel an intensity and a grief that is unruly, that is uncontainable. He was one of the rare people of which one could say he was irreplaceable, of whom one could truly say his loss will leave an unbridgeable gap. As I said in starting, my relationship with Ainsley was brief, but it was intense, and I mourn his death with a grief and with an intensity. My sense of loss and grief have helped me to understand what Taryn and his loving family, Lex, are going through. They knew him so much more and loved him so much more deeply. Our grief, though, must be tempered by a determination to remain true to Ainsley's legacy, a legacy of inclusiveness, of generous humanity, of resource sharing, of institutional interconnectedness, of human warmth, and of human engagement. I feel privileged today to be able to commit myself to taking forward that legacy. Thank you. Taryn, I'm going to ask you now. We're going to do something very beautiful and unusual. We're going to light candles, and then this is, to me, almost the saddest feature of this Ainsley's cap that he wore at all the university ceremonies. So let us come forward. We're going to be helped. Gaan u help meneer Manner? Baie dankie. En meneer Baatjies. Ja, baie dankie. Lindsay is Ainsley's best friend. Not just godfather to Lex, but designated guardian.
Taryn, Lex, Alida, and family, thank you for the privilege to do this short reflection at this memorial service for Ainsley. Taryn has requested that this part of the service be mainly in Afrikaans, in honoring of Ainsley's love for Afrikaans and his commitment to his mother tongue. A memorial service for Ainsley, it is still so unreal. Ainsley was a man who lived to live. He had energy for life, especially for life together. Ek drink graag uit die boek Psalms, 'n skat vir mense oor die grense van godsdienstige en sekulêre tradisies. Hierdie boek vertel van tye van oriëntasie, van tye wanneer dit goed gaan, wanneer ons georiënteerd is, wanneer ons weet waar die oriëns is, die ooste, die lig, die son, die lewe. Die boek sing daaroor. Maar hierdie boek vertel ook van tye van disoriëntasie, tye van teleurstelling en tragiek, tye van trane en treur, tye soos hierdie, van die groet van 'n geliefde. En dan vertel Psalms vir ons van tye van reoriëntasie, heroriëntasie. Tye wanneer ons weer weet waar die oriëns is. Die woordjie troos beteken letterlik dat hulle wat krom gebuig word deur leed, word weer orent gebring. Orent om die oriëns te sien, die ooste, die son, die lig, die lewe, hoop. En in hierdie reoriëntasie is dit nodig dat ons die verhale vertel van hulle oor wie ons treur en oor wie ons seer is. En in hierdie weke vertel ons die verhale van Ainsley. En op treffende wyse het ons dit nou in hierdie diens sover gehoor. Psalm 133, een van die mooiste psalms, gee sulke vir ons mooi kontoure om Ainsley se lewe te skets. Die psalm begin met daardie lied. Hoe goed, hoe mooi, hoe lieflik en nematof is dit as mense saamleef in harmonie en in vrede. En dan gebruik die psalm hierdie lewe tesame en skets die lewe tesame deur twee beelde. Eerstens die beeld van salf. Die salf waarmee die hoëpriester gesalf word gegooi op die hoof van die hoëpriester, op die hare, en dit loop oor die kraag en dan tot op die borsplaat. En op die borsplaat is gegraveer die name van die 12 stamme van Israel destyds. Salf is welriekend. En ons rektor het hier gepraat van die welriekendheid, die fragrance, die geur wat versprei word waar mense soek na lewe tesame te midde van diversiteit en selfs te midde van 'n geskiedenis en 'n hede van verdeeldheid. Welriekendheid, mooiheid. En die tweede beeld is die dou van Hermon. Die dou van die Hermongebergte wat die valleie so vrugbaar maak en waar ons soek na lewe tesame. Daar is daar vrugbaarheid, vitaliteit, lewe, vooruitgang. Dit is Ainsley Moos, wat hy beliggaam het, hierdie mooiheid, hierdie skoonheid, hierdie lieflikheid. Die Franse filosoof Paul Ricoeur beskryf 'n lewe wat die moeite werd is om te leef, en hy sê dan, dis 'n lewe waar daar wysheid is, dis 'n lewe waar daar geregtigheid en regverdigheid en billikheid is, dis 'n lewe waar daar goedheid is, en dan sê hy, 'n lewe wat die moeite werd is om te leef, kulmineer van sy hoogtepunt in dit wat skoon en mooi is. Estetiek is die hoogtepunt van etiek. As hy koor so pragtig sing elke keer, is dit estetiek, mooiheid, wat ons lig, wat ons etiek hoog lig, veral ons etiek van lewe tesame. Ek en Ainsley het oor jare heen gebede bespreek. Ek deel omtrent nou al 8 jaar lank elke dag 2 daggebede, een in Afrikaans en 'n afsonderlike een in Engels, en ek kon dit met Ainsley deel, en Taryn het gesê ek kan dit hier eksplisiet noem. En ons het dikwels van hierdie gebede bespreek, van die temas, en een van die temas was dan hierdie lewe tesame in diversiteit. En ons het gespeel met die woordjie hybriditeit. Dat ons wat saam leef, saam woon, saam werk, oor jare heen, daar gebeur iets met ons. Ons bly wie ons spesifiek is, maar ons word ook meer. Ek kan sê, Ainsley, is ons brein, is ons, wil jy die woord kleerling graag gebruik, nie brein, kooi, wat ook al, maar vanweë ons saamleef met ons geliefdes van ander kleurgroepe, sê ons, ja, ons is brein, en ons is meer. Is ek heteroseksueel? Ja, maar vanweë my verbintenis met my geliefdes van die LGBTIQA gemeenskap, is ek ook meer. Is ek Afrikaan? Ja, maar my saamleef met mense van ander kontinente, sê ek is ook meer as Afrikaan, dalk kosmopolitaan, steeds die spesifieke, maar die meer. En ek en Ainsley wil nou graag meer praat oor hierdie onbedreigde, angsvrye, byna speelse, meer maksimalistiese identiteit. Ek wil afsluit. Psalm 133 sluit af en sê, waar mense so soek na die lewe tesame, daar gebeur iets. Daar breek die ewigheid deur. En ewig in die Hebreëus beteken vir altyd en verseker. Ainsley se saamwees met ons was hom net te kort, kan ons voel. Byna vlietend, vlugtig. Maar ons het daai wonderlike versekering, die hemel gee aan sy kort tyd op aarde, ewigheidswaarde. Verseker en vir altyd, Taryn, Sis Alida, familie, skoonfamilie, vriende, kollegas, vennote van eens, verseker en vir altyd sal ons uit hierdie ryke fontein Ainsley Moos bly drink. And really in a very special way. For sure and for certain, little legs will drink from these very rich wells. Ek wil u nooi om, as u so verkies, u kan dit stil doen, maar as u wil, nooi ek u om saam met my 'n gebed te doen waarmee Joodse en Christelike aanbiddingsgeleenthede dikwels afgesluit word, die seën van Aaron, en as u as familie en vriende dalk wil, net stil saggies die hand neem van die persoon wat langs u sit om te sê, Taryn, ons is solidêr met jou. Ons stap saam met jou. Ons is in saamstappende verbondenheid. Ons bid nou dat u Taryn en Lex en Alida en die families, skoonfamilie en ons almal seën en beskerm. Laat skyn asseblief u aangesig van deernis en toegeneentheid oor ons en wees ons genadig. Verhef u aangesig oor ons en gee ons u vrede wat alle verstand te bowe gaan. Vrede, shalom, salf te midde van seer, balsem te midde van wonde, heling te midde van stikkendheid, glimlag te midde van trane, soete eelems te midde van bitter maras. Shalom, alles wat stikkend is. God maak dit heel op God se tyd. Alles wat op verkeerde plekke staan, God plaas dit op regte plekke, op God se tyd. Shalom, God sal hulle wat krom gebuig word deur leed, weer orent bring. Amen.
Ainsley was my go-to guy. He was a trusted advisor and formed part of the inner circle when we had challenging situations to navigate. I'm Sanaula Bray from Sanlam, a fellow colleague, and for many years, I would like to think a friend of Ainsley's. I could call on Ainsley at any time to assist on any matter, and he always obliged, never complaining about his commitments. In fact, I received a call on that fateful morning at 6 a.m. from Estelle, the wife of Desmond Smith, to advise that he had sadly passed. I immediately liaised with my go-to guy, Ainsley, as he and Desmond form part of the council of the Stellenbosch University. And we had lots of work to do from a communications perspective. I never fathomed for a moment that that evening would be Ainsley's last, and that we would never speak again. Ainsley's passing has left a monumental hole in all of our hearts and lives. I've been asked to provide the vote of thanks on behalf of the family, and the family sitting here would like to thank very many friends, colleagues, and family members who have reached out to provide support at this time in various ways. Some have provided meals, some have provided just physically being there. And mostly for the outpouring of love and condolences, which are far too many to mention. However, none have gone unnoticed. We would sincerely like to thank friends and family who have traveled from all over the country as well as internationally to be here during this trying time Deep appreciation goes to the colleagues of African Rainbow Capital, the Sanlam family, as well as the Stellenbosch University, who have provided guidance and material support to making this memorial service and a befitting one for Ainsley's humble and impressive legacy.